A scream echoes through Blackthorn Manor at 3 a.m., the devil's hour. A man lies dead, a cryptic note in his hand. Hercule Poirot steps into the storm to solve a murder where everyone's a suspect. Let's unravel the mystery. Chapter 1. The Midnight Summons. The scene opens on a stormy night in the English countryside, where rain lashes against the windows of Blackthorn Manor, a sprawling estate owned by the wealthy but secretive Lord Reginald Ashbourne. It's 1927, and the air is thick with tension. The manor is hosting a weekend gathering of high society aristocrats, artists, and a mysterious stranger who arrived uninvited. Our story begins as Hercule Poirot, the renowned Belgian detective, sits in his London flat, sipping hot cocoa and organizing his perfectly symmetrical moustache combs. A knock at the door interrupts his evening. It's a breathless messenger, drenched from the storm, delivering an urgent telegram from Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, Lord Reginald's sister. Murder at Blackthorn Manor. Come at once. Trust no one. Poirot's grey cells spark to life. Why him? Why now? He packs his case, dons his finest coat, and boards the midnight train to Devonshire, the wind howling as if warning him of the darkness ahead. As Poirot arrives at the manor, the clock strikes. 3 a.m., the devil's hour, a time folklore says evil stirs. The household is in chaos. Servants whisper in corners, guests clutch their pearls, and Lady Eleanor, a sharp-witted woman in her 40s, greets Poirot with a trembling voice. She explains that Lord Reginald was found dead in the library, a single gunshot wound to his chest, and a note in his hand that reads, "The devil knows your sins." The local police are baffled, and the guests are all suspects, each with a motive tied to Lord Reginald's shadowy past. Poirot surveys the scene. The library is heavy. Oak door was locked from the inside, the window bolted shut, and yet the killer escaped. How? He interviews the butler, Mr. Grayson, who swears he heard nothing but the storm, and Mrs. Vivienne Carver, a glamorous actress who was Lord Reginald's mistress, who claims she was asleep. Each answer raises more questions, and Poirot's meticulous mind begins to piece together the puzzle. For example, consider the note in Lord Reginald's hand. Poirot notices the ink is fresh, not smudged, suggesting it was written moments before the murder. He also spots a faint scratch on the library's antique desk, hinting at a struggle or perhaps a clue deliberately left behind. To keep your audience engaged, think of Poirot's method. Observe the small details, question everything, and trust your instincts. If you were in his shoes, what would you notice first? The nervous twitch of a guest's eye, the misplaced candlestick on the mantel. This chapter sets the stage for a classic whodunit, where every glance and word could hide a lie. As the storm rages on, Poirot gathers the guests in the drawing room, his piercing gaze studying each face. He announces he will solve the murder before dawn, but the clock is ticking, and the devil's hour is far from over. The mystery has only begun to unravel, and in the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the secrets of Blackthorn Manor's, guest secrets that might just point to the killer. Stay tuned for more twists and turns. Chapter 2. Shadows of Secrets. The storm continues to batter Blackthorn Manor. Its howling winds, a grim backdrop to the tension in the drawing room. Hercule Poirot stands at the centre, his small stature commanding the attention of every guest. The flickering candlelight casts long shadows, making the faces of the assembled aristocrats, artists, and the mysterious stranger look like masks hiding untold truths. Lord Reginald Ashbourne lies dead in the library. A cryptic note about the devil's sins in his hand, and Poirot has just declared his intent to solve the murder before dawn. The clock ticks closer to 4 a.m., and the devil's hour lingers like a curse. In this chapter, we dive into the tangled web of secrets each guest carries, as Poirot begins to peel back the layers of their carefully crafted facades. Who among them had the motive and the means to commit murder? Poirot's method is simple yet brilliant. He observes, he listens, and he provokes. He starts with the guests, each one a potential suspect with a connection to Lord Reginald. First, there's Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, the victim's sister, whose composure cracks ever so slightly when Poirot mentions the note. She insists she loved her brother, but her eyes betray a flicker of resentment, perhaps tied to the family fortune, which Reginald controlled with an iron grip. Next is Mrs. Vivienne Carver, the actress, whose charm and beauty mask a calculating mind. She admits to being Lord Reginald's mistress, but claims their affair was purely business. Poirot notes her diamond bracelet, a gift from Reginald, and wonders what price she paid for it. Then there's Colonel Marcus Harrow, a retired military man with a limp and a grudge, who mutters about Reginald's shady investments that cost him his savings. The mysterious stranger, introduced as Mr. Julian Drake, claims to be a distant cousin, but his vague answers and nervous glances suggest he's hiding more than his lineage. Finally, there's Miss Clara Wren, a young novelist with a sharp tongue, who was overheard arguing with Reginald about a betrayal the night before. Each guest's story is a thread in a tapestry of lies, and Poirot's grey cells are already at work untangling them. Let's take a practical example of Poirot's approach. When questioning Vivienne, he notices her hands tremble as she lights a cigarette. A small detail, but to Poirot, it's a clue she's nervous, perhaps guilty. He asks her about her whereabouts at 3 a.m., and she claims she was in her room, alone. Yet the maid, timidly confessing to Poirot later, saw Vivienne near the library door just before the scream. To engage your audience, think like Poirot. What do these inconsistencies mean? Is Vivienne lying to protect herself, or someone else? Another clue emerges when Poirot examines the drawing room's fireplace. Among the ashes, he finds a partially burned letter fragment with the words, "Meet me at 3." The handwriting doesn't match the note in Reginald's hand, suggesting a second conspirator, a trap. If you were Poirot, what would you ask next? Maybe you'd press Vivienne about who she was meeting, or confront Clara about her argument. The key is to stay curious, to see every detail as a piece of the puzzle. The atmosphere grows heavier as Poirot moves among the guests, his polite questions cutting like a scalpel. He notices Colonel Harrow's walking stick, its tip scratched, as if dragged across a hard surface, perhaps the library's oak floor. He also spots a smudge of ink on Mr. Drake's cuff, the same shade as the note found with the body. These are not accusations yet, just observations stored in Poirot's meticulous mind. To keep viewers hooked, imagine you're in the room. The air is thick with suspicion. Every creak of the floorboards feels like a warning, and the storm outside mirrors the chaos within. Poirot's strength is his ability to make suspects reveal themselves, often without realizing it. For instance, when he casually mentions the locked library door, Clara flinches, as if she knows something about how the killer escaped. These moments are what make a mystery thrilling niche clue, a breadcrumb leading closer to the truth. As the chapter closes, Poirot pauses by the grand staircase, his eyes scanning the portraits of the Ashbourne family. He mutters to himself, "The devil knows your sins, but Hercule Poirot knows your secrets. The guests retire to their rooms, but sleep is far from their minds. The storm shows no sign of stopping, and neither does Poirot. In the next chapter, we'll follow him as he digs deeper into the manor's hidden corners, uncovering a clue that could change everything. The Devil's Hour is ticking away. Stay with us for the next twist in this murderous tale. Chapter 3. The Hidden Passage. The storm rages on outside Blackthorn Manor, its relentless winds rattling the windows as the clock creeps past 4 a.m. Hercule Poirot, undeterred by the growing unease among the guests, has just finished probing their secrets in the drawing room. Each suspect Lady Eleanor, Vivienne Carver, Colonel Harrow, Mr. Drake, and Miss Clara Wren hide something, their nervous glances and half-truths forming a puzzle only Poirot's grey cells can solve. Lord Reginald Ashbourne's murder in the locked library, with its cryptic note and impossible escape, looms over the manor like a shadow. Now Poirot turns his attention to the house itself, suspecting that Blackthorn Manor holds secrets of its own. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he explores the manor's hidden corners, uncovering a clue that could crack the case wide open. Get ready for a twist that will leave you questioning everything. Poirot begins his investigation in the library, the heart of the murder mystery. The room is a fortress of books and secrets, its heavy oak door still locked from the inside when the body was found. He examines the scene with his trademark precision: the bloodstain on the Persian rug, the untouched glass of brandy on the desk, and the bolted window that rules out an outside intruder. But Poirot knows that what seems impossible is often merely clever. He taps the walls, listening for hollow sounds, and inspects the fireplace, where he finds a faint draft that shouldn't be there. His fingers trace the edge of a bookcase, and with a soft click, a panel swings open, revealing a narrow passage. A hidden corridor in Blackthorn Manor. This could explain how the killer entered and escaped the locked room, but where does it lead, and who knew about it? The discovery electrifies the case, suggesting the murder was meticulously planned. Let's break down Poirot's process for the audience. A hidden passage is a classic trope, but in Poirot's hands, it's a goldmine of clues. He follows the passage, a damp, cobwebbed tunnel that smells of old stone and secrets. It leads to a small door behind the manor's east wing, near the servants' quarters. This raises new questions. Did a servant help the killer, or was the passage a family secret? Poirot recalls Lady Eleanor's hesitation when asked about the manor's history. Perhaps she knows more than she's letting on. To make this engaging, imagine you're exploring with Poirot. Picture the creak of the hidden door, the flicker of his match in the dark tunnel. What would you look for? Maybe a footprint in the dust, or a scrap of fabric caught on a nail. Poirot finds something better: a single pearl earring, glinting in the passage. It's delicate, expensive, and suspiciously familiar. Vivienne Carver was wearing only one earring during her interview. Could she have been in the passage during the murder? Poirot emerges from the passage and questions the servants, starting with the maid, Elsie, who's barely 20 and terrified. She admits the staff whispered about old passages in the manor, but swears she never used them. The butler, Mr. Grayson, is more guarded, claiming the passages were sealed years ago. Yet Poirot notices Grayson's polished shoes are scuffed with dust, the same grey dust from the tunnel. To keep viewers hooked, think about the stakes. If the passage was used, the killer could strike again, and anyone in the manor could be next. Poirot tests his theory by asking Grayson to demonstrate how he locked the library door that night. The butler fumbles, his story inconsistent, and Poirot's eyes gleamed his caught a lie. Another clue surfaces when Poirot examines the earring. It's engraved with a tiny V, confirming it belongs to Vivienne. Did she lose it fleeing the scene, or was it planted to frame her? The chapter builds tension as Poirot returns to the drawing room, the earring tucked in his pocket. He doesn't reveal it, yet Poirot plays his cards close, letting suspects stew in their own guilt. Instead, he asks the group about the manor's history, probing for who might know about the passage. Colonel Harrow mentions old rumors of smugglers using tunnels during the war, while Clara Wren, the novelist, smirks as if she's written such a twist in one of her books. The air crackles with suspicion, and Poirot's calm demeanor only heightens the unease. For the audience, this is a moment to lean in. The hidden passage changes everything, turning a locked-room mystery into a labyrinth of possibilities. If you were Poirot, would you confront Vivienne about the earring now, or wait for her to slip up? His method is patience, letting the guilty reveal themselves as the clock nears 5 a.m. Poirot stands by the library's bookcase, the hidden passage, now a silent witness to the crime. The storm outside seems too quiet, but the storm within Blackthorn Manor is just beginning. Poirot's discovery has opened new doors, literally and figuratively, but the killer is still at large, and the devil's hour lingers in the shadows. In the next chapter, we'll see Poirot turn his attention to the cryptic note. The devil knows your sins, and uncover a scandal that could point to the murderer's motive. Stay with us as the mystery deepens. Chapter 4. The devil's note. The storm outside Blackthorn Manor has softened to a restless drizzle, but the tension inside remains electric. It's nearing 5 a.m., and Hercule Poirot has just uncovered a hidden passage behind the library's bookcase, a secret tunnel that could explain how Lord Reginald Ashbourne's killer escaped the locked room. The pearl earring found in the passage, engraved with a V, points to Vivienne Carver. But Poirot suspects the truth is far more complex. The cryptic note found in Reginald's hand, "The devil knows your sins," burns in Poirot's mind, hinting at a motive rooted in shame and betrayal. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he digs into the note's meaning, uncovering a scandal that threatens to tear the Ashbourne family apart. Grab a seat, because this mystery is about to take a dark turn. Poirot returns to the library, where the air still smells of gunpowder and fear. He holds the note under a lamp, studying its sharp, hurried handwriting. The ink is fresh, the paper crisp, suggesting it was written just before the murder. But by whom, and why mention the devil? Poirot suspects the note is more than a key to Reginald's past. He begins by questioning Lady Eleanor, the victim's sister, whose pale face betrays her dread. She claims ignorance about the note's meaning, but admits Reginald had enemies tied to his business dealings. Poirot presses further, asking about family secrets. Eleanor hesitates, then reveals a scandal. Reginald was embroiled in a blackmail scheme, extorting powerful figures with proof of their misdeeds. Could one of his victims have struck back? The note's words, "your sins," suggest someone knew Reginald's own dark secrets. To make this engaging for the audience, let's follow Poirot's logic. Blackmail is a dangerous game, and Reginald played it ruthlessly. Poirot examines a locked drawer in the library desk, forcing it open to find a ledger listing names and payments. Among them are initials: M.H. Colonel Marcus Harrow, V.C. Vivienne Carver, and J.D. Julian Drake. Each entry hints at secrets Reginald held over them, debts, affairs, or worse. For example, Colonel Harrow's name is linked to a failed venture that cost him his fortune, giving him a clear motive for murder. Poirot also finds a torn photograph in the drawer, showing Reginald with a woman who isn't Vivienne. The woman's face is scratched out, but her necklace matches one worn by Clara Wren. Could Clara's argument with Reginald, overheard the night before, be tied to this? If you were Poirot, what would you do next? Maybe compare the note's handwriting to the ledger, or ask Clara about the photograph. Every clue adds a layer to the mystery. Keeping viewers guessing, Poirot moves to the drawing room, where the guests are restless, their eyes darting as he mentions the word blackmail. He doesn't reveal the ledger yet, instead asking each suspect about their connection to Reginald's wealth. Vivienne laughs nervously, insisting she only wanted his affection. But her single earring matching the one in the passage tells a different story. Colonel Harrow grows red-faced, muttering about dishonest dealings, while Julian Drake, the mysterious cousin, claims he barely knew Reginald. Clara, however, snaps when Poirot mentions secrets, accusing Reginald of ruining lives for sport. Her outburst draws gasps, and Poirot notes her trembling hands, guilt or fear. To keep the audience hooked, picture the scene, the dim room, the ticking clock, and Poirot's calm voice cutting through the lies like a knife. A practical tip for viewers: notice how Poirot uses silence, letting suspects fill the void with their own nervous words. It's a masterclass in unraveling truth. Another clue emerges when Poirot revisits the note's phrasing. The devil knows your sins feels personal, almost biblical, suggesting the killer saw themselves as a judge. He recalls a faint smudge of red wax on the note's edge, as if sealed in haste. Searching the manor, he finds a candle in the study with traces of the same wax. Nearby is a crumpled draft of a letter in Reginald's handwriting, addressed to C. Clara Wren, warning her to keep silent or pay the price. Did Clara strike first to protect her secret? Or is someone framing her? The ledger, the photograph, and the note form a web of deceit, and Poirot is closing in. For the audience, this is the thrill of a mystery. Every answer spawns new questions, and the truth feels just out of reach. As the clock strikes 5:30 a.m., Poirot stands by the library window, the dawn still hidden behind storm clouds. The note's words echo in his mind, a warning that the killer is watching, waiting. The guests are on edge, sensing Poirot's progress, and the manor feels like a pressure cooker ready to burst. In the next chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he confronts one suspect with a shocking accusation, pushing the mystery closer to its heart. The devil's hour may be fading, but the danger is only growing. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 5. The accusation. The first hints of dawn creep through the storm clouds outside Blackthorn Manor, but the air inside remains thick with suspicion. It's just past 5:30 a.m., and Hercule Poirot stands in the library, the cryptic note, "The devil knows your sins," clutched in his gloved hand. His discovery of a hidden passage, a pearl earring, and a blackmail ledger has tightened the noose around the suspects. Lady Eleanor, Vivienne Carver, Colonel Harrow, Julian Drake, and Clara Wren. The ledger's initials and a torn photograph suggest Reginald Ashbourne's murder is tied to his ruthless blackmail schemes. Now, Poirot's grey cells are buzzing, and he's ready to shake the hornet's nest. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he makes a bold accusation, pushing one suspect to the edge and uncovering a revelation that flips the case upside down. Buckle up, this mystery is about to get explosive. Poirot gathers the guests in the drawing room, their faces pale under the flickering chandelier. He paces slowly, his polished shoes clicking on the hardwood, and announces that he knows how the killer used the hidden passage to escape the locked library. But his focus is on the note and the ledger, which point to a motive fueled by betrayal. He turns to Clara Wren, the young novelist whose sharp tongue and fiery argument with Reginald the night before raised suspicions. "Mademoiselle Wren," he says, his voice calm but piercing, "you accused Lord Ashbourne of ruining lives. Was it your life he threatened to destroy?" Clara's eyes widen, her hands clenching her skirt. She denies it, but Poirot produces the crumpled letter from the study, addressed to Seat Blue, and warning her to keep silent. The room gasps as he accuses her of knowing Reginald's blackmail secrets, perhaps even being his victim and striking him down to protect herself. Let's break this down for the audience. Poirot's accusation isn't random. It's a calculated move to provoke a reaction. Clara's outburst earlier, combined with the photograph showing her necklace, makes her a prime suspect. But Poirot knows accusing her publicly will either force a confession or reveal another's guilt. Imagine you're in the room. Clara's face flushes, her voice rises, and she snaps. "He was a monster, but I didn't kill him." Her denial is passionate, but Poirot notices her glance at Vivienne Carver, whose single earring matches the one found in the passage. Is Clara protecting someone? To engage viewers, think like Poirot, watch the body language. Clara's trembling. Hands in Vivienne's sudden stillness suggest a connection. A practical tip for solving mysteries. When someone protests too loudly, they're often hiding something, not always guilt, but a truth they fear. The accusation sparks chaos. Colonel Harrow leaps to his feet, accusing Clara of lying to save herself, while Julian Drake, the mysterious cousin, remains silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. Lady Eleanor tries to calm the group, but her voice shakes, hinting at her own fear of exposure. Poirot seizes the moment, revealing the ledgers. Initials CW for Clara, but also VC for Vivienne and MH for Marcus Harrow. He suggests Reginald was blackmailing multiple guests, creating a web of motives. For example, Vivienne's name in the ledger is tied to indiscretions that could ruin her career. Poirot asks her directly, "Madame Carver, did you pay Lord Ashbourne to keep your secrets, or did you silence him instead?" Vivienne laughs, but it's hollow, and her fingers touch her bare area nervous tick. The audience should feel the tension. Every question is a trap, and Poirot is closing in. A new clue emerges as Poirot revisits the library with the butler, Mr. Grayson, who's been dodging questions. Poirot notices a faint smell of tobacco in the passage, matching the brand Grayson smokes. Confronted, Grayson admits he used the passage to run errands for Reginald, but swears he didn't enter the library that night. Yet his scuffed shoes, dusted with passage dirt, tell a different story. Poirot also finds a tiny key in the library's rug, overlooked by the police. It fits a safe in Reginald's study, which holds a second ledger, this one listing payments to an unknown J.D. Julian Drake. The amounts are staggering, suggesting Drake's cousin story is a lie. For viewers, this is a turning point. The mystery isn't just about who killed Reginald, but who he was, manipulating and who snapped. If you were Poirot, would you confront Drake now, or use the key to dig deeper? As the clock nears 6 a.m., the drawing room is a powder keg. Clara's accusation hangs in the air, but her glance at Vivienne and Grayson's nervous fidgeting suggest a conspiracy. Poirot's bold move has rattled the suspects, and he knows the truth is close. He tucks the key away, his mustache twitching with a faint smile. The devil's hour is nearly over, but the manor's secrets are far from revealed. In the next chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he unlocks the safe and uncovers a truth that ties the murder to a long-buried scandal. The killer is watching, and the stakes are higher than ever. Stay with us for the next shocking twist. Chapter 6. The Safe's Secret. The faint light of dawn seeps through the curtains of Blackthorn Manor, but the shadows of suspicion linger. It's just past 6 a.m., and Hercule Poirot stands in the study, the tiny key he found in the library rug, glinting in his hand. His bold accusation against Clara Wren has left the guests rattled, their defenses crumbling under his relentless scrutiny. The hidden passage, the pearl earring, the blackmail ledger, and the cryptic note, "The devil knows your sins," point to a web of deceit spun by the late Lord Reginald Ashbourne. Now, the key promises to unlock a safe that could hold the final piece of the puzzle. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he opens the safe and uncovers a scandal that ties the murder to a betrayal buried deep in the Ashbourne family's past. Get ready for a revelation that will turn the mystery on its head. Poirot moves with purpose to the study, a dimly lit room lined with leather-bound books and a massive mahogany desk. The safe is hidden behind a portrait of a stern-faced Ashbourne ancestor, its steel door unyielding without the key. As he turns the lock, the safe clicks open, revealing a trove of secrets, a bundle of letters, a sealed envelope marked confidential, and a small velvet box. The letters are from a woman named Margaret, written years ago, pleading with Reginald to acknowledge their child he abandoned to protect his reputation. The envelope contains legal documents proving Reginald paid to silence Margaret, who died in poverty shortly after. The velvet box holds a locket with a faded photograph of a young woman and a baby, the woman's features strikingly similar to Lady Eleanor's. Poirot's grey cells hum. Could this scandal be the sin the note referenced? Was the killer seeking revenge for Margaret's suffering? Let's dive into Poirot's method for the audience. The safe's contents suggest a motive beyond blackmail, personal vengeance. Poirot compares the locket's photograph to Eleanor, noting the resemblance. Could Eleanor be Margaret's sister, or even her daughter, seeking justice for her mother? To engage viewers, imagine your Poirot sifting through these clues. The letters mention a trusted friend who helped Reginald cover up the scandal. This be Mr. Grayson, the butler, whose dusty shoes linked him to the hidden passage. Or perhaps Julian Drake, whose initials JD appeared in the second ledger with large payments. A practical tip for solving mysteries: follow the emotional thread. The note's mention of scenes feels personal, not financial. If you were in Poirot's shoes, would you confront Eleanor about the locket, or investigate Drake's connection to the payments? Poirot takes the letters and locket to the drawing room, where the guests are bleary-eyed and tense. He doesn't reveal the safe's contents yet, instead asking about Margaret, watching their reactions closely. Lady Eleanor freezes, her teacup rattling, and claims she never knew a Margaret. Vivienne Carver, however, flinches at the name, her fingers brushing her bare ear again. Colonel Harrow grumbles about old gossip, while Clara Wren, still shaken from Poirot's accusation, remains silent, her eyes darting to Julian Drake. Drake, ever elusive, says he's only a distant cousin, but Poirot notices his clenched fista, sign of fear or guilt. To keep the audience hooked, picture the scene. The room is a pressure cooker, each suspect hiding a piece of the truth. Poirot's questions are like chess moves, each one pushing the killer closer to checkmate. For example, when he casually mentions a child out of wedlock, Eleanor's face pales, and Vivienne spills her tear, small but telling slip. Another clue surfaces when Poirot examines the letter's handwriting, which matches the style of the cryptic note found with Reginald's body. This suggests the killer knew about Margaret's story and used it to taunt Reginald before his death. Poirot also finds a faint trace of perfume on the letters, a floral scent matching Vivienne's. Did she know Margaret, or was she involved in Reginald's cover-up? To test this, Poirot asks Vivienne about her early career, knowing she rose to fame around the time Margaret's letters were written. Vivienne deflects, but her voice cracks, and Poirot notes it. For viewers, this is the thrill of the chase. Every detail, from a scent to a nervous glance, builds the case. If you were Poirot, would you press Vivienne harder or turn to Eleanor, whose resemblance to Margaret raises questions about her true identity? As the clock nears 6:30 a.m., Poirot stands by the study's fireplace, the locket in his pocket and the letters tucked away. The guests are fraying, their secrets exposed like raw nerves. The safe has revealed a scandal that could ruin the Ashbourne name, but it also points to a killer driven by more than greed, perhaps love, loss, or revenge. The devil's hour is fading, but the manor's darkness grows deeper. In the next chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he confronts the suspects with the locket, forcing a confession that brings us closer to the murderer's identity. The truth is near, and the tension is unbearable. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 7. The Locket's Truth. The dawn light struggles through the heavy clouds over Blackthorn Manor, casting a pale glow across the study where Hercule Poirot stands, clutching the locket from Lord Reginald Ashbourne's hidden safe. 6:30 a.m., and the air is thick with the weight of secrets uncovered. A blackmail ledger, a hidden passage, a pearl earring, and now letters revealing Reginald's cruel abandonment of a woman named Margaret and her child. The locket, with its photograph of a woman resembling Lady Eleanor and a baby, suggests a scandal that could be the motive behind the cryptic note. The devil knows your sins, found with Reginald's body. The guests are fraying there, lies unraveling under Poirot's relentless probing. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he confronts the suspects with the locket, forcing a confession that brings the murderer's identity into sharp focus. Hold tight, this chapter is a roller coaster of revelations that will leave you stunned. Poirot gathers the suspects in the grand dining hall, where a long oak table is set with untouched breakfast trays, the clink of porcelain drowned out by the storm's fading rumble. His mustache twitches as he holds up the locket, its silver surface catching the chandelier's light. Mise Amos, he begins, his voice soft but commanding. This locket tells a story of betrayal, one that led to Lord Ashbourne's death. Who among you knows its truth? He opens it, revealing the photograph of the woman and child, and watches the room like a hawk. Lady Eleanor's breath catches, her hand flying to her throat. Vivienne Carver, her single earring a glaring absence, stares at the locket as if it's a ghost. Colonel Harrow shifts uncomfortably, his walking stick tapping the floor, while Julian Drake, the supposed cousin, avoids Poirot's gaze. Clara Wren, still reeling from her earlier accusation, grips her chair, her knuckles white. The locket is a grenade, and Poirot has just pulled the pin. Let's unpack Poirot's strategy for the audience. Confronting the group with the locket is a masterstroke. He's not just seeking a confession, but observing who breaks first. The photograph's resemblance to Eleanor is uncanny, suggesting she might be Margaret's sister, or even her daughter. Poirot tests this by asking Eleanor about her childhood, probing for gaps in her story. She claims to have grown up in the manor, but her voice wavers when he mentions Margaret's name. For viewers, imagine the tension. The dining hall feels like a courtroom, every suspect on trial. A practical tip from Poirot's playbook: watch for physical tells. Eleanor's hand at her throat, Vivienne's frozen stare, these are cracks in their armor. If you were Poirot, would you focus on Eleanor's reaction, or press Vivienne, whose perfume matched the letters? To engage the audience, picture yourself as a detective. What would you notice in this room of liars? Maybe the way Clara's eyes flicker to Drake, hinting at a shared secret. The confrontation yields a bombshell. Eleanor, pushed by Poirot's gentle but relentless questions, admits she knew Margaret not as a sister, but as a childhood friend who vanished after a disgrace. She claims Reginald never spoke of her, but her tears suggest a deeper connection. Poirot then turns to Vivienne, noting the floral scent on the letters matches her perfume. Madame Carver, were you Margaret's confidant, or did you help Lord Ashbourne bury her shame? Vivienne's composure cracks, she admits, knowing Margaret years ago, when they were struggling actresses. Margaret confided in her about Reginald's betrayal, but Vivienne swears she never acted on it. Her story is plausible, but the earring in the passage and her name in the ledger suggest she's not innocent. For the audience, this is a gripping moment. Vivienne's confession ties her to the motive, but is she the killer or a pawn in a larger game? Another clue emerges when Poirot examines the locket more closely. Inside, etched faintly, is a date: 1895. This aligns with Margaret's letters, written 30 years ago, when Eleanor was a child. Poirot recalls the butler, Mr. Grayson, mentioning an old scandal from that era, and his dusty shoes from the passage make him a suspect again. Poirot questions Grayson privately, who admits he delivered payments to Margaret on Reginald's orders, but claims he never knew about a child. Yet Grayson's hands shake, and Poirot spots a faint ink stain on his cuff, matching the note's ink. For viewers, this is a classic Poirot twist. The loyal servant might be more involved than he seems. To keep you hooked, imagine the stakes. If Grayson used the passage, he could have helped the killer or been the killer himself. A practical tip: in mysteries, the quiet ones, like butlers, often hide the biggest secrets. Would you trust Grayson's story or dig into his past? As the clock nears 7 a.m., the dining hall is a cauldron of fear and guilt. Eleanor's admission and Vivienne's confession have exposed a wound in the Ashbourne family, but the locket's truth points to a killer driven by personal vengeance. Poirot tucks the locket away, his eyes scanning the suspects. Julian Drake's silence is deafening, and Clara's nervous glances suggest she knows more than she said. The devil's hour is nearly gone, but the manor's secrets are far from exhausted. In the next chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he zeroes in on Julian Drake, whose mysterious past and ledger payments make him a prime suspect. The truth is closing in, and the killer is running out of time. Stay with us for the next heart-pounding twist. Chapter 8. The strangers past the dawn light grow stronger outside Blackthorn Manor, but inside, the atmosphere is darker than ever. It's just past 7 a.m., and Hercule Poirot stands in the dining hall, the locket's revelation still reverberating through the room. Lady Eleanor's admission of knowing Margaret, the woman betrayed by Lord Reginald Ashbourne, and Vivienne Carver's confession about their shared past have tightened the web of suspects. The hidden passage, the pearl earring, the blackmail ledger, and the cryptic note The devil knows your sins point to a murder fueled by a decades-old scandal. Yet one figure remains elusive. Julian Drake, the mysterious cousin whose silence and nervous demeanor have caught Poirot's eye. The ledger's payments to J.D. suggest he's more than he claims. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he digs into Drake's past, uncovering the connection to the murder that threatens to unravel everything. Get ready for a twist that will leave you gasping. Poirot moves to the manor's conservatory, a glass-walled room filled with wilting ferns and the faint scent of damp earth. He invites Drake for a private talk, his polite smile masking a predator's focus. "Monsieur Drake," Poirot begins, "your claim to be a cousin is, how you say, unconvincing. The ledger names you, and your silence speaks louder than words." Drake, a lean man with sharp cheekbones and uneasy eyes, shifts in his seat, insisting he's a distant relative invited for the weekend. But Poirot's grey cells are relentless. He recalls the ledger's entries, large payments to J.D. over several years, far more than a cousin's courtesy. Poirot produces the second ledger from the safe, pointing to the initials. "These payments," he says, "suggest you were in Lord Ashbourne's detour, his power." Drake's jaw tightens, and Poirot knows he struck a nerve. Let's break this down for the audience. Poirot's tactic is to apply pressure, forcing Drake to reveal his hand. The ledger's payments, thousands of pounds, hint at blackmail or a deeper connection to Reginald's schemes. Poirot probes Drake's background, asking about his life before arriving at the manor. Drake claims he's a businessman from London, but his vague answers and lack of family details raise red flags. For viewers, imagine your Poirot reading Drake's body language, his clenched hands, his quick glances at the door. A practical tip for solving mysteries: when someone avoids specifics, they're hiding something. To engage the audience, picture the conservatory's oppressive quiet, the storm's last raindrops pattering on the glass. If you were in Poirot's shoes, would you push Drake harder or search for physical evidence tying him to the crime? Maybe check his belongings for a clue. Like the ink-stained cuff Poirot noticed earlier, a breakthrough comes when Poirot, with the butler's reluctant help, searches the guest rooms. In Drake's suitcase, tucked beneath a false bottom, finds a faded letter from Margaret, the same woman from the locket dressed to Julian, my love. The letter, dated 1895, pleads for help after Reginald abandoned her and their child. The revelation hits like a thunderbolt. Drake isn't a cousin, he's Margaret's lover, possibly the father of her child, with a motive for revenge. Poirot confronts Drake in front of the guests, holding up the letter. "You came to Blackthorn not as a guest, but as a man seeking justice for Margaret's suffering," he declares. Drake's face crumples, and he admits he loved Margaret, but denies killing Reginald. He claims he only wanted to expose Reginald's cruelty. But the ink on his cuff matching the murder note tells a different story. For the audience, this is electric. Drake's secret ties him to the motive, but is he the killer or a heartbroken man caught in the crossfire? Another clue surfaces when Poirot revisits the hidden passage, suspecting Drake used it. He finds a scrap of fabric caught on a nail, matching the tweed of Drake's jacket. This places him in the passage near the time of the murder, contradicting his claim of being in his room. Poirot also recalls the red wax smudge on the murder note, matching a candle in the study where Drake was seen lingering earlier. To keep viewers hooked, imagine the stakes. If Drake is Margaret's lover, his rage could have driven him to murder, but his denial feels genuine. A practical tip: in mysteries, emotional motives like love or revenge are powerful but physical. Evidence seals the case. If you were Poirot, would you trust Drake's story or confront him with the fabric? The conservatory feels like a trap closing around Drake, with Poirot as the hunter. As the clock nears 7:30 a.m., the guests are summoned back to the dining hall. Drake's letter, now a damning piece of evidence. The other suspects, Vivienne, Clara, and Colonel Harrow, watch in stunned silence as Drake's past unravels. But Poirot senses the puzzle isn't complete. The notes, handwriting, the passage, and the locket point to a conspiracy, not a lone killer. Drake's love for Margaret explains his motive, but someone else in the manor may have pulled the trigger. The devil's hour is almost over, but the truth is closer than ever. In the next chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he pieces together the final clues, leading to a dramatic showdown that reveals the killer's face. The tension is unbearable, and the end is near. Stay with us for the next shocking twist. Chapter 9. The Final Clues. The pale dawn light filters through Blackthorn Manor's tall windows, but the chill of suspicion grips the dining hall tighter than ever. It's 7:30 a.m., and Hercule Poirot stands before the assembled guests, his eyes sharp as he holds the letter that exposed Julian Drake as Margaret's lover, a man with a burning motive for Lord Reginald Ashbourne's murder. The hidden passage, the pearl earring, the blackmail ledger, the locket, and the cryptic note. The devil knows your sins have woven a complex web, implicating Lady Eleanor, Vivienne Carver, Colonel Harrow, Clara Wren, and the butler, Mr. Grayson. Drake's tweed fabric in the passage and his ink-stained cuff tie him to the crime. Yet Poirot's grey cells hum with the sense that the puzzle is incomplete. In this chapter, we follow Poirot as he uncovers the final clues, setting the stage for a dramatic showdown that will unmask the killer. Hold your breath, the truth is about to surface. Poirot begins in the library, where Reginald's body was found, revisiting the scene with fresh eyes. The locked door, the bolted window, and the note's fresh ink have haunted him, but now he focuses on the smallest details. He kneels by the desk, noticing a faint burn mark on the rug, as if a cigarette had been dropped and quickly stamped out. The scent of tobacco lingers, matching the brand smoked by Mr. Grayson, whose dusty shoes and ink-stained cuff already raised suspicions. Poirot then examines the murder weapon, a small pistol found beside Reginald's body. The police assumed it was Reginald's, but Poirot notices its grip is engraved with the initials M.A. Colonel Marcus Harrow. This is a bombshell. The gun links Harrow directly to the crime, but why would he leave it behind? Poirot suspects a frame, or a desperate act by a man pushed to his limit. Let's dive into Poirot's process for the audience. The burn mark and the pistol are critical, but Poirot's genius lies in connecting them to the suspect's motives. He recalls Colonel Harrow's bitterness over Reginald's shady investments, listed in the ledger, which cost Harrow his fortune. The pistol's initials suggest Harrow was in the library, but the cigarette burn points to Grayson, who claimed he was elsewhere. To engage viewers, imagine your Poirot piecing this together. The library feels like a chessboard, each clue a move toward checkmate. A practical tip for solving mysteries: look for inconsistencies in physical evidence. If Harrow's gun was used, why didn't he take it? If Grayson was there, why the cigarette? For example, Poirot tests the pistol's trigger, it's stiff, suggesting it hadn't been fired in years, yet the shot was clean. This hints at a staged scene, perhaps to mislead the police. If you were Poirot, would you confront Harrow about the gun or Grayson about the cigarette? Poirot returns to the dining hall, where the guests are restless, their faces etched with dread. He holds up the pistol, its initials gleaming, and watches Harrow's reaction. The colonel's face reddens, and he admits the gun is his, but swears it was stolen from his room the night before. Poirot then turns to Grayson, asking about the cigarette burn. Grayson stammers, claiming he smoked in the library earlier that day, but Poirot points out the burn was fresh, made hours after Grayson's supposed visit. The butler's eyes dart to Vivienne, a fleeting glance that Poirot catches. For the audience, this is a pulse-pounding moment. 2 new clues, 2 suspects, cornered, and a conspiracy taking shape. To keep you hooked, picture the dining hall's tension. Every word feels like a step closer to the truth. Poirot's method is to layer pressure. By revealing the pistol and burn, he's forcing the guilty to slip. Another clue emerges when Poirot re-examines the note's red wax smudge. He finds a matching wax drip on the dining hall's candelabra, near where Vivienne sat earlier. Did she write the note, or is someone framing her, just as they may have framed Harrow? To test his theory, Poirot stages a subtle trap. He announces he's found a witness who saw someone near the library at 3 a.m., watching the guests' reactions. Clara Wren flinches, her earlier accusation now a distant memory, while Vivienne's hand brushes her bare ear, where the missing earring was found. Grayson shifts uncomfortably, and Drake, still shaken from his own confrontation, remains silent. Poirot's bluff works. Clara blurts out that she saw Vivienne in the hallway near the library before the scream, contradicting Vivienne's alibi. Vivienne snaps back, accusing Clara of lying to deflect suspicion. The room erupts in accusations, and Poirot's calm smile hides his satisfaction. The killer is panicking. For viewers, this is the thrill of a mystery. Every clue tightens the noose, and the suspects are turning on each other. A practical tip: in a group of liars, the truth often slips out in their anger. If you were Poirot, would you push Clara's new testimony or focus on Vivienne's crumbling alibi? As the clock nears 8 a.m., Poirot stands by the dining hall's fireplace, the pistol and note in his hands. The burn mark, the initials, and Clara's accusation have shifted the case, pointing to a plot involving multiple players. The devil's hour is gone, but the manor's secrets are laid bare. Poirot knows the killer is among them, and the final piece is within reach. In the next chapter, we'll witness Poirot's climactic showdown, where he reveals the murderer's identity and unravels the full truth behind the Devil's Hour murder. Chapter 10. The Killer Unmasked. The morning sun finally breaks through the clouds over Blackthorn Manor, casting long shadows across the dining hall where Hercule Poirot stands, his eyes gleaming with certainty. It's 8 a.m., and the tension is palpable. The clues: a hidden passage, a pearl earring, a blackmail ledger, a locket, a pistol with Colonel Harrow's initials, a cigarette burn, and the cryptic note. The devil knows your sins have led to this moment. Julian Drake's past. As Margaret's lover, Vivienne Carver's broken alibi, Mr. Grayson's suspicious presence in the passage, and Clara Wren's accusation have woven a complex tapestry of deceit. Poirot's bluff about a witness has sparked chaos among the suspects. Lady Eleanor, Vivienne, Colonel Harrow, Drake, Clara, and Grayson. Now, in this final chapter, Poirot stages a dramatic showdown to reveal the murderer of Lord Reginald Ashbourne, tying every clue into a shocking truth that will leave you speechless. Get ready for the grand finale of this Devil's Hour mystery. Poirot positions himself at the head of the dining table, the suspects seated before him like a jury awaiting verdict. He holds the note, the pistol, and the locket, his voice steady. As he begins, Mies, Amos, the murder of Lord Ashbourne was not a crime of passion, but of collaboration, a conspiracy born of vengeance and fear. He starts with the note, its handwriting matching the letters from Margaret, but its red wax smudge linking it to the candelabra near Vivienne. "Madame Carver," he says, "you wrote this note, did you not?" Vivienne's face drains of colour, but before she can deny it, Poirot reveals the cigarette burn in the library, pointing to Grayson. "And you, Monsieur Grayson, were in the library, your tobacco betraying you." Grayson's shoulders slump, but Poirot isn't done. He turns to Colonel Harrow, holding up the pistol. "Your weapon, Colonel, fired the fatal shot, yet you claim it was stolen. A convenient lie." The room is silent, each suspect frozen under Poirot's gaze. Let's unravel this for the audience. Poirot's genius is in connecting the clues to a single narrative. The hidden passage allowed the killer to enter and escape the locked library, but the crime required planning. Poirot explains. Vivienne, humiliated by Reginald's blackmail over her past with Margaret, wrote the note to lure him to the library at 3 a.m., the devil's hour. Grayson, who knew the passage from his years of service, helped her access it, driven by loyalty to Margaret, whom he'd secretly loved. But the fatal shot came from Harrow's pistol, wielded by Clara Wren. Clara, Poirot reveals, was Margaret's daughter, raised in secret after Reginald abandoned her mother. The locket's photograph was of Margaret and baby Clara, and her argument with Reginald was about his refusal to acknowledge her, enraged by his cruelty and fueled by Vivienne's plan. Clara stole Harrow's gun and shot Reginald, using the passage to escape. Grayson planted the earring to frame Vivienne, protecting Clara. While Drake's presence was a red herring, he sought revenge but arrived too late. For viewers, this is a masterclass in deduction. Every clue, from the wax to the fabric, fits like a puzzle piece. Imagine your Poirot. How would you feel unmasking such a tangled plot? To engage the audience, let's visualize the scene. The dining hall is a pressure cooker. The suspect's face is a mix of shock and guilt. Poirot's calm voice cuts through their defenses as he recounts the timeline. Vivienne confesses first, admitting she wrote the note but didn't pull the trigger. Grayson breaks next, revealing his role in guiding Clara through the passage. Clara, tears streaming, admits her crime, her voice raw as she describes years of pain over her mother's fate. Harrow, stunned, confirms his gun was stolen, and Eleanor weeps, realizing her brother's sins destroyed their family. Drake, though innocent of murder, admits he came to confront Reginald but found him already dead. For a practical tip, consider Poirot's method. He builds the case step by step, using physical evidence, the earring, the gun, and emotional cracks, Clara's outburst to force the truth. If you were a detective, would you have suspected Clara, or been misled by Vivienne's charm? The audience should feel the thrill of resolution. Every loose end tied. Poirot seals the case with a final clue. The scratch on the library desk, made by Clara's ring as she struggled with Reginald before shooting him. The police, summoned by Poirot, enter to arrest Clara, Vivienne, and Grayson, while the others are left to grapple with their own guilt. The manor, once a fortress of secrets, feels hollow as the storm clears. Poirot steps onto the terrace, the morning air crisp, his mustache perfectly aligned. "The devil's hour is over," he says, "but the truth, it always endures." For viewers, this is the payoff. A mystery solved, a killer unmasked, and justice served. The emotional weight of Clara's motive avenging her mother adds depth, making the resolution both thrilling and poignant. Imagine the satisfaction of cracking the case alongside Poirot, every clue falling into place as the clock strikes 8:30 a.m. Blackthorn Manor falls silent, the weight of the devil's hour lifted. Poirot boards his car to return to London, his work complete. This tale of betrayal, vengeance, and redemption has reached its end, but the mystery lingers in our minds. What did you think of Poirot's deductions? Did you guess the killer, or were you fooled by the red herrings? Let us know.